Okay, so you own a McDonald's, the Golden Arches, the most recognized restaurant brand on the planet, a location that does millions in annual sales, customers who show up without you spending a dollar to attract them. You've bought into the single most proven system in fast food, and you've also signed away more control over your own business than almost any other kind of owner in commerce. By the end of this, you'll understand why the company you pay isn't really a burger company, why roughly 15% of every dollar that crosses your counter leaves before you touch it, why you can be a model operator and still be told what your business is worth, and why the one thing you thought you were buying, independence, is the thing you gave up. Let's start with the money going out, because it's the clearest window into the relationship. To open a traditional McDonald's in the United States, you're looking at a total initial investment commonly ranging from roughly $1.4 million to $2.7 million, including a franchise fee of $45,000. And McDonald's expects a substantial portion of that in unborrowed personal cash. So before you serve a single customer, you've committed a fortune and cleared a screening process that takes months. That screening deserves a mention of its own because it reveals the nature of the relationship from the very first day. McDonald's does not simply sell franchises to anyone with the money. Candidates go through an extended evaluation and a lengthy training program, often working in restaurants themselves, before being approved. You are not a customer buying a product. You are an applicant being assessed for suitability, and that dynamic never really goes away. Now, the ongoing fees. You pay a royalty, historically 4% of gross sales, raised to 5% for new and refranchised U.S. locations starting in 2024, the first such increase in nearly 30 years. On top of that, you contribute not less than 4% of gross sales to national advertising and marketing. Combined, that's roughly 8 to 9% of everything you sell, gone. On a restaurant doing $3.9 million in annual sales, the royalty alone is somewhere around $156,000 to $195,000 a year. But the royalty isn't the real story. This is, McDonald's owns the land in the building. You don't, and you pay them rent. This is the detail that reframes the entire business. And it's why people in finance have long observed that McDonald's is better understood as a real estate company that happens to sell hamburgers. The corporation acquires prime commercial locations, builds restaurants on them, and leases them to franchisees, often with rent structured as a percentage of your sales rather than a fixed amount. Analyses have found franchisees paying on average roughly 10.7% of sales in rent, well above the 6 to 10% typical elsewhere in fast food. And during difficult periods, some operators have reportedly paid up to 16%. Reports around the 2024 royalty change indicated new units would face rent rates in the mid to upper teens as a percentage of sales. Now put it together. Royalty plus advertising plus rent means roughly 15%, and in some cases considerably more, of your gross revenue goes to corporate every month before you've bought a single beef patty, paid a single employee, or turned on the lights. Read that again, because it's the central fact of your business. 15 cents of every dollar leaves before your actual costs begin, and none of those fees are negotiable. They're set out in the franchise disclosure document, applied uniformly, and adjusted at the franchisor's discretion. A conventional business owner facing a cost squeeze can renegotiate with a landlord or shop for a cheaper supplier. You can do neither, because your landlord and your supplier chain are the same organization whose brand you depend on entirely. Then you pay for food, which is one of your largest expenses, labor, utilities, maintenance, insurance, and debt service on the millions you borrowed to get in. And here's what makes the rent structure particularly punishing. Because it's tied to a percentage of sales, it scales with your revenue but not with your profit. Have a great sales year with thin margins because beef and labor costs spiked, and you pay more rent on revenue that earned you less. Your landlord's income rises whether or not yours does. In a downturn, when sales are flat and costs are climbing, that percentage becomes a vice, which is precisely why rent has historically been the flashpoint of tension between franchisees and corporate. So what does all this leave you? Median annual sales at a U.S. location have been reported around $2.9 million, with an average profit margin near 10%, producing something like $290,000 in annual profit per location. That's a genuinely good income. But against a typical investment around $1.8 million, the payback period runs roughly 8.5 years. Nearly a decade of running one of the busiest restaurant operations in the world before you've earned back what you put in. And that assumes things go well. A strong location, stable costs, and no major surprises along the way. Now let's talk about the part that has nothing to do with money: control. Or rather, the absence of it. A franchise is fundamentally a licensing arrangement, and what you've licensed is the right to execute someone else's system exactly as specified. Your menu is set for you. Your suppliers are chosen for you. Your pricing guidance, store design, equipment, uniforms, packaging, procedures, and operating hours are dictated by the franchisor. Even your marketing is out of your hands. You pay 4% of sales into a national fund and receive campaigns you had no vote on. Sometimes those campaigns are national discount promotions that drive enormous traffic at very thin margins. You absorb the labor and food costs of serving that rush, while the strategic benefit accrues to the system as a whole. Franchisees have publicly clashed with corporate over exactly this kind of decision, along with wage policies and restaurant assessment systems, because the people executing the strategy and the people setting it are not the same people. Think about what that means day to day. If you have a brilliant idea for a menu item your local customers would love, you cannot simply add it. If you find a better, cheaper supplier, you cannot use them. If you think your dining room would work better with a different layout, that's not your decision. You've invested millions of dollars and taken on all the operational risk of a small business, while holding roughly the creative authority of a store manager. For a certain personality, entrepreneurial, inventive, allergic to being told what to do, this is genuinely miserable, and it's the most common reason franchisees become unhappy despite making money. Then there's the evaluation machinery. You are inspected, graded, and scored against national standards on an ongoing basis, and compliance with those standards isn't optional. It determines whether your franchise agreement gets renewed, and renewal is not a right. Franchise terms run for a defined period, and new terms are granted at the franchisor's discretion, conditioned on your compliance record and your contributions to the system. Terms for a renewed franchise are based on then current policies, and the rent rate for your renewed term will not be set lower than your previous rate and may increase. So you can operate cleanly for 20 years and discover that continuing requires accepting worse economics than you had before, because the alternative is losing the business entirely. This is the structural asymmetry at the heart of franchising, and it's worth stating plainly. You carry the capital risk, the debt, the staffing burden, and the daily grind. The franchisor carries the brand. If your restaurant underperforms, that's your loss. If it thrives, corporate collects its percentage of your growth and owns the real estate that just became more valuable. And your primary asset, the business itself, can only be sold with the franchisor's approval to a buyer they find acceptable, on terms they influence. McDonald's has also tightened policies around franchisees designating spouses or children to take over, meaning even the succession of your own business isn't fully yours to plan. And running underneath all of it is the operational reality of fast food itself, which is brutal regardless of the sign on the roof. You're managing a large hourly workforce with high turnover in an industry known for it, covering shifts, handling scheduling, dealing with sick calls, and training constantly. You're subject to health inspections, wage and hour regulations, and liability exposure. Your equipment breaks and must be repaired immediately because a broken fryer during lunch rush is lost revenue. Modern operations have added further complexity. Delivery partnerships, mobile ordering, and digital promotions all bring more volume through the same kitchen, often at lower effective margins after third-party fees, while raising customer expectations about speed and accuracy. And periodically, corporate mandates a remodel, a substantial capital expense on the building you don't own, to keep the brand current. This is one of the most resented costs in franchising, because you are required to spend heavily improving an asset that belongs to someone else on a timeline you didn't choose, and the improved property raises the value of their real estate. You get the disruption and closed days during construction. They get an upgraded building and a franchisee still paying a percentage of sales in rent on it. So let's answer the real question. Why does owning a McDonald's suck when it's the most successful franchise system ever built? Because you bought a job with a 7-figure entry fee and a landlord who is also your boss, your supplier, your marketer, and your judge. Roughly 15% of your gross revenue is committed before your first real expense. Your payback runs the better part of a decade. Nearly every decision that would let you differentiate, innovate, or economize has been made for you. Your renewal, your sale, and even your succession require permission from a company whose interests overlap with yours but are not identical to them. The Golden Arches genuinely do deliver. The volume is real. The brand does the work. The systems function, and plenty of franchisees earn very good livings. But you never really bought a business. You bought a long, expensive, tightly supervised lease on someone else's business model, executed on someone else's land, under someone else's rules, and the moment you stop being the kind of operator they want, the whole thing reverts to them. You own the risk. They own the arches, the dirt underneath them, and the right to decide whether you get to keep going.